Many women know women whose husbands are struggling with sex outside of marriage, sex with self, emotional affairs, social media affairs, all kinds of stuff. You ladies talk about this stuff, and it's sad. Some of you are living with this in a secret way. You know, but nobody else knows. What are you supposed to do when you find out that your husband has a sex addiction?
Right now, the drama at Daystar is also centering around Doug Weiss, who's married to Joni Lamb. If you've heard of Heart to Heart Counseling Center, you probably know it as a place that claims to help people heal and rebuild their relationships, especially those struggling with sex addiction. Doug Weiss, a psychologist, runs the whole operation. For years, some women have been speaking out online, on blogs and forums, about their negative experiences at the center. But here's the thing, their voices didn't really carry far because Doug had this polished, picture-perfect public image that always seemed to overshadow them. Now, with the spotlight on Daystar thanks to this scandal, these women finally have a chance to share their stories and be heard. Their voices are starting to shine through all the noise. According to reports from several women, one of the wildest things Doug Weiss allegedly did was make women, whose husbands had cheated on them, sign sex contracts. These contracts apparently required them to promise to have sex with their husbands a certain number of times a week. But wait, it gets worse. Imagine this. You're a woman whose husband has cheated on you. You're already feeling crushed, betrayed, and trying to pick up the pieces. Then you go to counseling, hoping for some kind of help or clarity, and you're told to sign a sex contract. Yeah, you're expected to promise you'll have sex with your husband a certain number of times a week. During these intensive counseling sessions, Doug Weiss allegedly pushed even harder, telling women that if they didn't stick to the plan, they'd lose their husbands. Can you imagine being told that after everything you've been through? Now, let's not forget, these are the same husbands who lied, cheated, and in some cases even abused these women. Instead of helping these women heal or rebuild trust, this approach seems to force them into intimacy they might not be ready for. And to make it worse, some of these counseling sessions uncovered even deeper betrayals, things the wives didn't even know about before.
Hey, real quick, would you mind hitting that thumbs up button? Liking this video doesn't mean you're agreeing with the craziness. It just helps get this video out to more people and spread the truth.
One woman's story, shared by the Roy's Report, really stuck with me. She was expected to get back to normal when she was just learning the full extent of her husband's actions.
Within hours of learning that their husband's infidelities or addictions went far beyond their suspicions, the women said they were expected to treat a past polygraph as proof there were no more secrets. With the slate allegedly wiped clean, they were expected to quickly begin rebuilding trust and intimacy, whether they were ready or not. Another woman who said she learned horrifying details about her husband's secret life during the pre-polygraph meeting said her counselor assigned her an exercise that she felt was a form of gaslighting. She said the counselor told her to write down 10 things she could have done differently to keep her husband from acting on his sexual addictions. It was like a slap in the face, she said. Relos, the coach of Partners of Sex Addicts, said she believes some of Heart to Heart's methods for rebuilding trust cause further damage. There are sex contracts in the workbook that caused a lot of harm for partners because they weren't ready to integrate into physical intimacy with their spouse after learning of years of betrayal and things like that, Rello said. There were lots of practices that felt unsafe for my clients. Another woman reveals more details on the sex chants. Saw him in fall 2029. He has chants you are supposed to do for 1.5 to 2 hours each night. One of the chants is to repeat to your husband and vice versa. I want you sexually. You repeat this over and over to each other, taking turns for a given amount of time, then go to the next chant. You are supposed to look your abuser in the eyes when you tell him this.
Think about it. These women were being asked to look their abusers in the eye and tell them something so intimate when they were still trying to process the hurt and betrayal. It's like forcing someone to smile through their pain, all for the sake of healing. And the fact that this isn't just a one-time thing, but a nightly ritual, that's beyond uncomfortable. It's wrong on so many levels. This whole look them in the eyes thing Doug pushes reminds me of something he said in so many of his videos. He's always talking about looking his ex-wife Lisa in the eyes during intimate moments.
She's a very lovely, nice girl. But I can tell you, after years of doing sex right, I am so attached to Lisa's big green eyes, it just blows my mind. I look at those eyes and I'm thinking, I am coming home tonight. because I am attached to her eyes, because when we have sex, we maintain eye contact. I am attached to her soul.
We all know how that story ended. After over 30 years of marriage, Doug ended up divorcing Lisa, so it makes you wonder, if all this eye contact and emotional connection stuff is supposed to fix relationships, why didn't it work on his own?
This comment says, one woman out of many I spoke to went to Doug's heart-to-heart retreat with her husband in the fall of 2022, after Doug's divorce, but before he told everyone. And he lied to her and presented himself to still be married, like his marriage was still a good example. When she found out Doug lied and was divorced, she confronted him about his lies, and he straight up blamed her and tried to make her think it was her fault that she was offended, as if there's something wrong with her, and that her trauma from betrayal is why she's offended, implying that if she was just healed enough, then she wouldn't be offended.
Let's call it what it is, gaslighting. He tried to make her feel like she was crazy for being upset about a very real lie. That's such a manipulative move, and honestly, it's infuriating. Like, this woman came to him for help and healing, and instead of giving her honesty and accountability, he fed her lies, and then twisted the situation to make her doubt herself. I can't stand when people do this, especially someone in a position of trust and authority, claiming to be a counselor. It's not just wrong, it's downright harmful. If you're using someone's pain and trauma against them to cover your own tracks, you're not helping anyone. You're causing even more damage. And honestly, that's unforgivable.
Here's another remark shared by a couple back in 2022. My husband and I attended a very expensive week intensive with Doug Weiss. I felt like I had been scammed by a bad infomercial. It was so costly, both emotionally and financially. Mr. Weiss labeled both my husband and I with heavy diagnoses from the psychology DSM within about 30 minutes of meeting us. It was incredibly unprofessional. Being truly interested in change and growth, I sought out the very foremost expert on my diagnosed area of mental illness, as diagnosed by Doug Weiss, within 30 minutes of meeting me. The doctor I met with in New York, the premier leader in that area of study, affirmed I absolutely did not have that personality issue. It was truly damaging to meet with Doug Weiss. I feel he fleeced us financially, but he is convinced he is being crowned by God with worldly success for doing God's work. He was brash, abrasive, and arrogant. When we met with him, he had recently published a book called Priest and Kings or something like that, and he had a grandiose Christian idea that he was destined to be a godly king of heaven. Doug Weiss has written insightful materials which contributed to the understanding of addiction, which he himself was once suffered from. It seemed the healing he still needed was somehow playing out in the session we had with him. He didn't seem whole enough to help us. He also seems to have a grandiosity complex.
Now, let's check out this audio and hear what Doug Weiss has to say about how women should handle things when their husband is a sex addict.
When you are married to someone, you married the good guy, told you he was good, or maybe he was spiritual, maybe he was religious, maybe he, just was clean. And it's like, you know what? I don't have to worry about that. This is all fine. We're raising our kids together. He really loves me. He's really into me. And then you find out months, years, or decades into your marriage that he's really into porn. He's really into strip clubs. He's into sex with this type of person or that type of person. And all of a sudden, your world goes upside down in a big way. You had no clue. You've been blindsided by an addiction. Whatever you do, get informed about sexual addiction. Next, get support. Whether it's a phone group, we have plenty of those for spouses of sex addicts. You can call my office at 719-278-3708. This is what we specialize in. If you talk to a counselor who's been trained by me, you will be talking to someone who really gets the spouse's issues, okay? And you want to get support. And I would say get support before you do the confronting.
Well, let's unpack what Doug is saying here, because honestly, it's mind-boggling. He's advising wives of sex addicts to get informed and join support groups. His groups, of course, because his office just happens to specialize in this. But here's the question. Why is the burden falling on the wife? the innocent party, to get support and do the work. Let's be real. The man is the one with the addiction. He's the one who lied, cheated, and broke trust. He should be the one seeking counseling, support groups, or whatever else it takes to fix his mess. Why is the wife being told to jump through hoops, attend sessions, and put herself in situations that might just re-traumatize her? It's almost like suggesting she's somehow part of the problem, or worse, that she needs to fix herself to make the marriage work. And let's talk about those support groups. While they might help some, it's not okay to coerce women into these spaces, especially when they're still processing the betrayal. Sitting in a room or on a call, reliving the pain, hearing other horror stories, or being pushed to understand their husband's addiction can easily deepen the trauma instead of healing it. The focus needs to be on the husband doing the work, going to counseling, facing his issues, and proving over time that he's serious about change. The wife? She needs space, time to heal, and the freedom to decide what's best for her without being guilt-tripped or manipulated into thinking she has to support his recovery. Bottom line, the man messed up. It's on him to fix his life. The wife is not the one with the problem, and she shouldn't be made to feel like she's responsible for carrying the weight of his addiction. It's unfair, it's damaging, and frankly, it's just wrong. What do you think? Shouldn't the focus be on the person who caused the problem to clean it up, instead of making the victim feel like she has to participate in fixing the situation?